It is the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, and Kansas City is hitting the road. That's right, they're in Buffalo. We'll talk about it next on DJ Football. It is DJ Football. He's Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network. I'm Ryan Brown. The show presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag. With your initial deposits, you get that sign-on bonus. You can use it right away. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.ag. Don't forget, code next round. What is up, DJ? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I always think about the Chiefs as like the Steve Jobs of the NFL. In other words, like they just have their home uniform, like 20 versions of them all stacked up in the closet. You know, the black turtleneck, the jeans, like they wore the same thing every year. And now it's like, wait a second, I have to wear a different what? I got to wear the road jerseys. Are you sure?
It's the postseason. I don't need these white jerseys. What are you doing? Before we talk about this week's game, let's briefly touch on what they did in the wild card round. We'll start with Kansas City, who played that frigid game at home against Miami. The concern about Kansas City has been their offense, and Miami was just ravaged with injuries defensively. Probably their 6 of their top defenders were out of that game. But still, I think you saw some signs of life from that Kansas City offense that might encourage you if you're a Chiefs fan.
I think so. I think, obviously being able to run the ball a little bit with Pacheco is kind of what they've leaned on as of late. But Rashee Rice kind of taking that next step and emerging as that guy that Mahomes really needs. I think that was a great sign. And even though the drops continued to plague them, Kelsey still found a way to make enough plays there. So I think if you're a Chiefs fan, you left that encouraged. But this is a much, I should say that I thought it would be a much healthier Buffalo team until some of the injuries started, piling up for them on the defensive side of the ball this past week. But I would imagine it's going to be a tougher challenge going on the road and playing at Buffalo.
Yeah, it got delayed, but they put away the Steelers. I mean, Pittsburgh hung around in that game for a little bit. That's a one touchdown game in the fourth quarter. The score maybe not quite as indicative of the way Pittsburgh played in that game, but pretty much what you expected from Buffalo at home there.
Yeah, but you're right on Pittsburgh. There was some self-inflicted wounds in terms of turnovers, especially one in the end zone. I mean, that's a killer. Right. They're right in the middle of that game. I don't think this Buffalo team is really, kind of head and shoulders or above other teams are equipped to just blow the doors off people. They're going to be in tight games. The hard part about playing them is you get to end the game situations, and Josh Allen with his ability to run, that's just like it's the ultimate X factor of what he can add and bring to the mix. And they're spreading the ball around. Kincaid did some nice things. They got Stephon Diggs, even though the yards weren't up there, they got him involved a little bit early in this game. So and they ran the ball all right with Cook. So I think Buffalo has they're in kind of winning mode right now, where they've needed to win for so many games. They've been able to kind of find their way to the finish line. Not always aesthetically pleasing, not blowing the doors off people, but I think that helps when you've had your kind of back against the wall as long as they have.
I think in Miami's situation at Kansas City, the weather clearly impacted them. They did not deal with that well, and that's a historic situation for Miami. They've dealt with that historically. It's what happens for playing in a warm climate. I don't think the same was true for Pittsburgh. I think they kind of embraced it. I think they embraced playing in that situation.
I think Pittsburgh wishes they would have played the game on time in 4 feet of snow, because they could have turned around a hand. That was I actually gave them a shot if that happened. I thought, okay, you get the winds, you get the snow, you get Najee Harris, big back, and even Jaylen Warren, who runs much bigger than his size. That offensive line with Washington now playing tight end and getting out there, Broderick Jones, like they can move people. That was the equalizer. Once they rescheduled that game, I thought that really diminished their chances.
All right, let's take a look at the matchup after we remind you about a couple of good sponsors here on DJ Football. First of all, MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag, and you get a sign-on bonus with your initial deposit. You get to use that bonus right away. When once with it, it is yours and yours forever at MyBookie.ag. That is when you use code next round. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag, code next round. Also, Manscaped.com. I've got in my hands the Handyman. It is the compact travel razor that's good at home, too, with Manscaped.com. They got a ton of great products, and we're going to give you a code where you could save at Manscaped.com in just 1 second. But don't forget their great products, the Beard Hedger, which I use. It's got the dial-up guard, so you don't have to pop guards on and off. It's got 20 settings. You're just fine any length you want to choose there with the Beard Hedger. They've also got the Weed Whacker, which takes care of the nose hair and the ear hair, and the Lawnmower, which takes care of the full body. including the undercarriage. You want to make sure it looks great. All of that right there at manscaped.com. Code DJF20 for your DJ football viewers and listeners. You get a great 20% off your first order. And when you use code DJF20, 20% off and free shipping on your first order with code DJF20 at manscaped.com. All right. So speaking of mybookie.ag, DJ, this is what they say about the upcoming game as we record this. Buffalo, a 2.5-point favorite at home over Kansas City. That's significant because rarely, as you mentioned in the open, do we talk about Kansas City playing a road playoff game. It will be interesting to see how they respond to this.
Yeah, I think this comes down to the very end. I mean, whether way you lean on this ball game, I don't see either one of these offenses just running away with it. So to me, when you look at the way these teams match up, we saw it earlier this year, an incredibly close, a low-scoring game. It just feels like a million years ago when they were playing shootouts. You can look forward to this game and the high-flying offenses and big-time shootouts. Really, the unit that's improved the most. If you go back to the 13 seconds left game that Buffalo thought they were going to move on, and then Kansas City miraculously is able to get down there and survive and win that ball game. The difference in the 4 units from then to now, Kansas City's defense, it's just so improved from where they were, and they just keep getting better.
The one thing that was weird with Buffalo, when I saw this story, I'm like, man, I thought Leonard Fournette was still being pretty productive for them.
Yeah.
But it's just a roster situation. So they had to sign another punter. And because of NFL rules, and I don't pretend to understand all of it, but because of where Fournette was, on the roster or whatever, he's the one that was basically the victim of the numbers. That's a tough break for Buffalo because I thought he still had some gas in the tank.
Yeah, playoff Lenny. I mean, and had a history of doing that in the postseason, and especially with his run there in Tampa. So, yeah, I saw that when that came across, it caught my eye a little bit. It was interesting, especially as you kind of look who's left in this tournament and look at the weather you could potentially be playing in this weekend at home and then potentially next weekend in Baltimore. Having a quote unquote mutter back there, not a bad thing, because that's not, James Cook, obviously more of a slashing runner. The surface and the weather is going to be more important for him to be a little bit clear.
Yeah, it's because of his veteran status on the practice squad. It is simply a numbers game. I don't think it had anything to do with the production of Leonard Fournette. It was just that you got to go get another punter and holder for Tyler Bass, and you had to make room for him. It's just the way the NFL works.
Yeah, it's a cruel business. You're thinking about making a nice run, and all of a sudden you wait, what? The punter got hurt. How's that? Yeah. How is that my fault?
Yeah, this is such an interesting quarterback matchup between Mahomes, who has been this generation's top quarterback. I mean, the guy has the rings to show it. And Josh Allen, who's been very close, but the one thing he does not have is that ring to show up for it. Buffalo cannot get over that hump. And this would feel like, even though, Baltimore perhaps is on the horizon and a trip there, this would feel like a massive hurdle for Josh Allen. He's been in AFC championship games, but to get past the king at this point in the playoffs would feel like a huge hurdle for him.
Well, I look, if you talk to personnel guys around the league that watch this stuff each and every week, and I'm one of them, I'll put myself in this group of people that believe this. Josh Allen is the most talented player in the NFL. Right. And that's taking nothing away from Mahomes. Mahomes is the most accomplished right now of these quarterbacks in terms of what he's doing and the consistency with which he's played. But Josh Allen as a runner can bring a whole another dimension. So to me, the only thing that's missing is that resume piece of the championship. I think once he gets that, now we transition from talking about Josh Allen, the most talented player, to Josh Allen's the best player in the NFL. That's he's that close to that conversation. Just needs to, to finish the deal. And it feels like, maybe this is kind of a magical year. Once the article came out, as we joked about Sean McDermott, and they had 5% chance of making the postseason. They've done nothing but win games, and it's been largely because of him and what he's done. But looking at this game real quick, Ryan, one other point I want to make. If you think about, we talk about the high flying offenses and the quarterbacks and how they operate. This is a team in Buffalo, and I was going through all the stuff. Buffalo plays with the second most 6 offensive line set combinations in the NFL. So they're going to use that extra lineman, which is going to help against Kansas City's pass rush, because Kansas City blitzes like nobody's business. I think they were third most, or fifth most in terms of blitz rate. And then Kansas City plays 2 tight ends. They're the 3rd most in the league. So we're going to think of this game as high flying, throwing the ball all over the place. And it's like, we're going to see a bunch of tight ends and an extra offensive lineman out there. They're going to try and run the ball all game long.
Well, it will be a fun game. And right now, as I mentioned, Buffalo, the home favorite over Kansas City, a 2.5-point home favorite for the game coming up on CBS on Sunday as we enter the wild card portion, or excuse me, the divisional portion, as we exit the wild card, enter the divisional portion of the NFL playoffs. The show DJ Football is presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag. Get that sign-on bonus. Use it right away. Win once with it. It is yours and yours forever. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag. Code next round. Also, Manscaped.com. Code DJF20. Get you 20% off your first order and free shipping there at Manscaped.com. Right here, the same place you get DJ Football at Disrupt the Media. We've got previews of a couple of other playoff games. Green Bay at San Francisco, Houston at Baltimore, Brock Heward and Lance Taylor breaking down the games as well. You can get all that right here on this same YouTube channel. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and set your alerts so you get information about shows like this. He's Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network, and this is DJ Football.